Please subscribe to our channel, Pacific Front Untold, and be sure to leave a comment after watching a video. The Type 97 Chi-Ha was a medium tank developed by the Imperial Japanese Army in the late 1930s, and it played a significant role in Japan's armored warfare strategies during the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II. Its development, operational history, and impact on the battlefield provide a fascinating insight into the evolution of armored warfare in the Asia-Pacific region. The Type 97 Chi-Ha was developed as a successor to the earlier Type 89 Iho, which was deemed insufficient against emerging foreign tank designs. Designed by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, the Type 97 aimed to balance firepower, mobility, and protection within the technological and industrial constraints faced by Japan at the time. It had a crew of 3, comprised of the tank commander, gunner, and driver. The tank's main armament was a 57mm gun, which was adequate against contemporary armored threats when it was first introduced, but its primary purpose was to support infantry. The tank also had 1 or 2 7.7mm machine guns for anti-infantry and anti-aircraft purposes. However, as the war progressed, this armament became increasingly obsolete against Allied armor, leading to the development of the Shinhoto Chi-Ha, which featured an upgraded 47mm high-velocity gun in a new and improved turret design. The armor of the Type 97 was relatively thin, ranging from 8mm to 25mm, and provided only limited protection against enemy fire. This reflected the Japanese doctrinal emphasis on speed and maneuverability over direct engagement with enemy tanks. It was powered by a Mitsubishi V12 diesel engine, which provided a good balance of power, reliability, and range with a top speed of about 24 miles per hour, which was somewhat unusual for the time. The Type 97 saw extensive service across various theaters of the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II, from the vast plains of China to the jungles of Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands. Engagements included the Battle of Khalkhin Gol in 1939 against Soviet and Mongolian forces. However, while the Soviet Union's well-coordinated defensive tactics and superior tanks caused the Japanese military significant difficulties, none of these setbacks were directly linked to the Type 97's poor performance. During the invasion of Malaya in 1941 and 1942, the Type 97 faced British and Commonwealth forces, but performed relatively well in the early stages of the conflict. The Type 97 participated in the Battle of Singapore during 1942 and played a successful part in the Japanese land offensive, which ended in a decisive defeat for British and Allied troops. Throughout the invasion of the Philippines in 1941 and 1942, Japanese Type 97s fought against American and Filipino defenders and significantly contributed to the Japanese victory in the early stages of the campaign. The Type 97 saw action in the Burma campaign of 1942 and 1943, where Japanese forces again faced British and Allied troops. The tank was effective in the initial stages of the campaign, but the challenging terrain and logistical issues did impact the tank's performance. While the Type 97 Chi-Ha was involved in these early war campaigns and achieved success against less heavily armed opponents, its limitations became more apparent as the war progressed. In its initial engagements in China, it demonstrated superiority over Chinese and Soviet-supplied tanks. However, these successes were somewhat misleading, as the tank's inadequacies were not fully exposed against the poorly equipped Chinese forces. As the Pacific War expanded, the Type 97 encountered more formidable opponents, such as the British Matilda and American M4 Sherman tanks. In these contests, the Type 97's weakness in armor and firepower became glaringly apparent. Despite these disadvantages, Japanese crews often used their tanks in innovative ways, leveraging the terrain and employing ambush tactics to offset their technological shortcomings. One of the notable battles where the Type 97 was used against American forces was the Battle of Saipan, which took place from June 15th to July 9th, 1944, during the Pacific Campaign of World War II. The battle was a critical part of the American island-hopping strategy aimed at capturing key islands in the Pacific and moving closer to Japan. As part of the Mariana Islands, Saipan was a strategic location due to its airfields and proximity to the Japanese home islands, which enabled air raids on the Japanese mainland. The Japanese garrison on Saipan included several armored units equipped with Type 97 tanks, among other assets. These tanks were intended to bolster the island's defenses against the anticipated American invasion. The American invasion began with a massive pre-landing bombardment, followed by amphibious landings on Saipan's west coast. The U.S. forces faced fierce resistance from the entrenched Japanese defenders, who utilized the rugged terrain and caves and prepared positions to their advantage. Japanese armor, including Type 97 tanks, was used in counterattacks against the American beachheads and advancing troops. One notable engagement involving the Type 97 tanks occurred in the vicinity of Aslito Airfield, where the tanks supported infantry assaults against American positions. Type 97 Chi-Ha tanks were at a significant disadvantage against the superior firepower and armor of the American M4 Sherman tanks and M10 tank destroyers. The 57mm main gun of the Type 97 was largely ineffective against the frontal armor of the Sherman, requiring the Japanese to attempt flanking maneuvers or close-range ambushes to achieve any success. Moreover, the open terrain of Saipan, unlike the jungles of Southeast Asia or the island's dense forests, offered little cover for the Japanese tanks, making them vulnerable to anti-tank weapons, artillery, and airstrikes. American air superiority further compounded the difficulties faced by Japanese armored units, severely limiting their mobility and effectiveness. Despite their valiant efforts, the Japanese counterattacks, including those involving Type 97 tanks, were ultimately unsuccessful in repelling the American invasion. The battle resulted in a decisive American victory, with the capture of Saipan enabling air raids on the Japanese mainland and significantly contributing to the eventual Allied victory in the Pacific. The use of Type 97 Chi-Ha tanks at Saipan exemplifies the challenges faced by Japanese armored forces when confronting technologically superior American tanks and combined arms tactics. It also highlights the limitations of the Type 97 Chi-Ha in direct tank engagements, underscoring the broader issues of Japanese tank design and doctrine during World War II. The impact of Type 97 Chi-Ha tanks on the battlefield is one of limited success. While it initially provided the Japanese Imperial Army with a mobile and versatile armored platform, its effectiveness waned as Allied technological advancements outpaced Japanese industrial capabilities. Although the tanks struggled against the better armored and armed tanks fielded by the Allies in the later stages of World War II, it was actively used by Imperial Japanese forces until Japan's unconditional surrender in August 1945. Despite its shortcomings, the Type 97 Chi-Ha holds a significant place in military history as a symbol of Japan's armored warfare efforts. It was the most widely produced Japanese medium tank of the era, serving in various capacities throughout the war and even continuing in limited service post-war under different flags. The tank's legacy is thus a testament to the challenges faced by Japan in maintaining parity with its adversaries in the arms race of World War II. The Type 97 Chi-Ha represents a critical chapter in the history of armored warfare in the Pacific theater. Its development reflects the strategic priorities and industrial limitations of Japan in the prelude to World War II, while its operational history underscores the dynamic nature of technological evolution in the context of global conflict. Regardless of its operational shortcomings, the Type 97 Chi-Ha remains an iconic vehicle embodying the complexities of war and the relentless pursuit of advancement in military technology.